Hi, my name is Bill Schaeffer, and we have a book review today of Mutant Message Down Under by Marlo Morgan. This is the only book that as soon as I was finished reading it, I started over reading it a second time and read it all the way through. This is true, and it was just as enjoyable the second time as the first. This is the story of a middle-aged, middle-class American woman who travels to Australia for a conference on healing and gets abducted by a family group of Australian Aborigines. It was explained to her that they were looking for a person to convey their message and their philosophy to the rest of the world. And she was chosen because of her work as a healer, as a New Age healer. She was then given a choice. She could join them on a trek across the Australian outback, or she could choose to be returned to her hotel room and she would be perfectly safe. So she chose to join them. And the first thing that was done was they had a ceremony where they burned all her clothes and all her possessions. And this signified a break with her previous life. Now the title comes from the fact that the Australian Aborigines consider Westerners or white people or Western civilization to be mutants. They consider that the people in Western civilization have lost touch with their basic nature and that they're living out of touch with reality and with the world. And they consider that they and their culture are living properly. And that's where the title Mutant comes from. The book is listed as fiction, but we want it to be true. We want to believe that the events in the book are true and that the philosophy espoused is a true philosophy. There's a lot to like about this book. At the most basic level, it's a travelogue and an adventure story. And you want to find out how the adventure finishes. At the next level, it's a story of a personal transformation. As the author is forced to confront her preconceptions of what's correct and proper based on her upbringing and her living in Western society. And finally, it's an exploration of the philosophical underpinnings of Western society itself, and a questioning of what has real value and what are the true and important values in life. Now, I don't want to ruin the story for you, but there are a few elements of the book that I found intriguing. First, they talk about possessions and the lack of possessions, and they talk about culture being measured by possessions. And they talk about possessions as being a trap that holds you in space-time, and that possessions hold you in place. Another interesting thing was the discussion of psychic phenomena, of communication telepathically, of distant viewing, and precognition, being able to tell the future. And the assertion was made that these abilities are pretty much available to everyone. But they're based on honesty. You have to be honest with yourself and with everyone else. And if you live a life of honesty, and you practice honesty, and you avoid deception and self-deception, then you may begin to develop some of these psychic powers of communicating telepathically or precognition. But I like the idea that unless you're honest, and totally honest, that you can't be aware of the subtleties involved in psychic phenomena. A third thing I liked about this book is they mention the fact that the culture of the Australian Aborigines is coming to an end. That the original people's time on Earth and their culture is coming to an end. Because the desert is heating up. The desert is becoming hotter and drier than it ever has been. And this is due to global warming and a global change. And this is the mutant message down under, that the Australian Aborigines are giving to us through this book, that we need to change our ways and follow their lifestyle if we're to survive. Therefore, if you're interested in an adventure story that reveals a New Age philosophy purported to be based on ideas of the Australian Aborigines, I highly suggest Mutant Message Down Under. I enjoyed it so much that I read it immediately a second time, and I know you'll enjoy it also. Thank you, and leave your comments below.